this is the work, this is the deep work I do. I reflect on myself and how I move in this world. And in spirituality, they say to heal others, you begin with the self.
Welcome to Our Latina Lens Podcast, where we elevate the work and stories of accomplished Latina and Latine photographers based in the United States. I'm your host, Monica. Today's episode is Nalani Hernandez-Melo's image tour, and she shares 4 images that are significant to her, including of actor Annie Gonzalez, artist Mr. Cartoon, and her own self-portrait, La Curandera, from her series Las Cuatro Direcciones. You can click on the link in your podcast player to see the images she discusses. If you haven't listened to Nalani's interview in episode 12, where she speaks to her journey of becoming the photographer and curator she is today, be sure to go back and listen to that. This is the last episode for season 1 of Our Latina Lens Podcast. Thank you for listening, and I'm so excited to begin work on season 2. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our newsletter to learn when the new season drops and also about our upcoming National Directory of Latina and Latine photographers. Now, let's hear from Nalani about her work.
Let's set the scene. Nalani has just moved back to Los Angeles. She knows, being an LA baby, LA native, she knows Hollywood is an industry she wants to work in. I had just seen Gentified, and I had started working with Brittany Bravo. I learned that sometimes all it takes is just an ask to create these photo shoots to happen. I learned about test shoots, and I need to build my portfolio. So I took a chance. I DM'd this amazing woman, actress, multifaceted, creative woman, Annie. I DM'd her. I had seen her on Gentified. The show on Netflix had really inspired me. And I just shot out and said, hey, this is my work. I'm a photographer. I would love to photograph you and see if you'd be interested. And she came back and said, heck yes, like I would love to. When, where, and let's make it happen. And that was a huge relief. I'm like, oh my gosh, she said yes. What do I do now? And I had to remind myself of all my experience. I've produced a shoot. I know how to do a shoot. Just make it happen. I had to... Test shoots are a way for a photographer to build a portfolio. It's when they themselves produce and put in their own resources into creating a photo shoot that will help propel their work into the next stage or get another job or just continue to create the work. And it's a key step for your entire career to keep test shooting. And they're also very creative because it's just your project. You're not creating it for anybody. You might have some personal goals, but this is you being creative. Annie Gonzalez was super excited to do this with me. A lot of gratitude to her for trusting me. We've never met before. And then from there, I just had to remind myself that I know how to produce a shoot. I know the elements of a successful shoot. Thank you to my community for sharing resources. I needed to find a hairstylist, a makeup artist. So I had a hair, makeup, and a stylist. I also needed a studio, and Brittany Bravo was so kind enough to let me use her studio space for the day to shoot with her. My father also, he's a chef, and he came through for me. I know as a producer, the number one thing that everybody loves on set is being fed, being fed well. And with test shoot, no one is getting paid. This is passion work. This is just our time to create something together. So I wanted to make sure my team was well nurtured for them to show up and do this for me and with me. So my dad made us breakfast and some snacks. And so I made sure they had nice crafties and everybody was in good spirits. I also remember just like creating the mood board and a schedule and being in contact with everybody. It was my first time really using all my skills I had from my editorial time, but creating it to produce something for myself. I had done it for others and for bigger shoots even, but I kind of felt that feeling of like, oh my God, the stakes are higher because I'm not just producing, I'm shooting it too. I just remember that day being full of so much good stress and anxious energy. Of just like, I want to make sure Annie has a good time. I want to make sure everybody on set has a good time. Because at this point, I'm still very new. I moved back in like January, February, and this was in September. So like, I was still very like new kid on the block. Nobody knows me. Gonna put good foot forward. I just remember my heart beating so fast the entire time. I had like 3-4 cameras on me. I was just like, I was being a little extra just to make sure I captured everything. Our goal was to shoot 2 looks, 2 distinct, like 2 specific feels. I wanted one that was brown and proud. That was the theme we gave it, brown and proud, which is the image you see here. I asked Annie what she had in her personal collection to really make this shine of brown and proud. And she herself had the chingona shirt. And our stylist had amazing jewelry. Our hair stylist, oh my God, Desiree is amazing with hair and just like transforming people. And I had Jessica do her makeup. And for me, what was really important was really making the film medium shine. I shoot on a Hasselblad and 35 millimeter Olympus. Again, I was really intentional that creating photography, I want to work in a medium that sings to me. And so film is that. The second look we did was more of like an elevated Hollywood reporter feel with a suit. That was me keeping in mind like client that I would love, dream client I would love to shoot for. Me capturing this energy of her, of Annie, I respect her so much. She's so strong and so confident. And she's a tiny, tiny woman. Like she's short, but she comes in with so much energy and so much strength. And when I asked her to give like a power pose with the chingona shirt and for me to capture that on film in black and white, to me, this became like my iconic, like LA Latina looking at Latina image. And when I received these images back from development, having them processed and seeing them, I myself felt like a chingona. Like it was my own validation that I was seeking to tell myself, I have the tools I need. I have the community that's there to support me create them. And people still believe in me. People that don't know me see my work and trust me. That's what I think of Annie. You know, she's never met me. She just could look at my work. And at this point, I don't think I had a lot on my Instagram yet. It was just all personal photography, a lot of black and white and film. We're both very intuitive, and she went with her intuition of like, yeah, let's do this shoot. This image, this photo shoot specifically was the catalyst of me really starting to share my portfolio with the LA community, putting myself out there and starting to find clients and starting to find people that want to create imagery with me. This image, in hindsight, really did help pave this road for me. By definition, chingona means badass, like, but feminine, you know, badass or bad bee, you know, like bad bee. But chingona, I would say, is more like slang in Mexico. So Mexican culture. It is a word that has been reclaimed by a new generation of Latina women, specifically Mexicanas, Chicanas, Mexican American women, who are reclaiming this word that usually is used derogatory to say like you're such a bee, you know, like you're so bossy, you're so like you're too much. Now we're claiming it and saying, I am this. This is how much energy I have. This is how much space I take up, and I'm honoring that. And it's definitely a reclaiming, because my mother, she struggles with this word and she's trying to understand why it's being reclaimed, because growing up for her, it was, you would never want to call yourself this. This is something you never want to be a chingona. It's someone who's just so, you know, that we distinguished assertive and aggressive. You know, it wasn't very ladylike. And now we're in a space where we're reclaiming it as strong, assertive, confident, brown woman. And Annie totally carries that energy. And she's an actress, singer, and she does so much. But I see her and I recognize that she needs to walk in this kind of energy to claim the space that she needs in her industry. And so when I gave her the prompt of brown and proud, to her, it translated wearing this shirt in this power pose. And we're from LA. And so for us, we went all LA. I think for me, this image also, and it ties into one of the next images we're going to do, full circle of, on technicality, people will say I'm not from LA because my family came to Pasadena. They immigrated to Pasadena, and I was raised in Pasadena. But to me, it's like nurture versus nature. Yes, my house was in Pasadena, but my mom raised me at the Los Angeles flower market. We were going to El Mercado La Lorena. We were going to Placita Lovera. Like, we were on the streets, Mexicanas, brown and proud, and really experiencing our LA culture. So with this image, we went way Chicana with her gold hoops, with her hair pulled to the side with the clips, her strong pose, and that shirt is just saying like LA proud, but also Mexicana proud, and chingona energy, you know, just badass, powerful woman. And the fact that I picked the black and white for me is a nod to the street culture and the street photographers that influenced me as a young artist in LA, that I was seeing photograph LA as I was growing up and developing as a young photographer. So a couple of things happened. Annie ended up actually using some of the images, not specifically this image, but from our shoot. She ended up using some of them for press releases. I think after the shoot, Hentified Season 2 was released by Netflix. So she used some of that for press releases. I actually then found she reshared a painter or like a digital artist, like a young artist, took one of the photos that she shared on her Instagram and did a digital drawing from it. So it inspired someone to create other artwork. I think I screenshotted it because it was really cool. I also draw, so it was really nice to see someone like, oh, wow, that inspired them to use my work as reference. And then from a career perspective, some PR agencies really liked knowing there was a brown woman, like a Latina, photographing Latinos creatives. And I've had some PR agencies reach out with other up and coming actors and actresses that want to create editorial work with people who understand their culture and their background. So this image even though it's been a while since we created it, it's still serving a ripple effect. I look at this image today, things I would do differently, or things I know now on a technical level that I'm like, oh, if I had known that then. One thing I want to point out of this, like when I started, the only like photography class I took in college were black and white at an art school. So it was very like, whatever you feel, shoot it, and light, capturing light. It wasn't a technical school, like, you know, learn all the rules and this, da, 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 da. which I find value in that so much. So at this point in my journey, I'm a natural light photographer. Like that light is coming in from a beautiful window. I was using a lot of V flat, like, blocking like on her left side. You see it's a little bit darker. Like I have a black V flat on the side to create some more contrast, but this is all natural light. So I remember at some point, like as we were getting later in the day, I was like, we're running out of light and I have to like hurry up because I won't have anything to compensate that. And I think I even had a couple video lights, but they weren't very strong. So now when I look at it, I'm very proud of them. But now I'm like, I could do it so much more better. The phrase that's staying with me lately, for the sentence, it's stay humble. Humble beginnings. That phrase of like, don't forget where you came from. So I was kind of debating what to pick, which to share, kind of reflecting on back, like, what would I have done different? Now I would do things differently. Originally, I was going to pick a shoot that's almost similar to this, but now it was an assignment. It was like I was actually hired to do an editorial portrait. I shot black and white film of someone in Hollywood, a director, and it was just crisp and clean, like things were done differently. But I decided to show this one because this is really, for me, a reminder of my humble beginnings. Never forget where you started. Never forget where you came from. And also as I grow, and I've heard this from other photographers, sometimes we think as we grow, we have to upgrade or level up or complicate our setup or do more. And sometimes less is more. Sometimes just that one window with one V flat and one camera and having an amazing, strong presence in front of you is all you need. And this reminded me of that. Sometimes you just gotta flow and never forget where you started.
Sometimes we need to reach out and take action, standing in our courage and our confidence. I love that this opportunity worked out for Nalani and led to so many other projects. What ask can you make today that was inspired by her courage? Next, Nalani speaks to the opportunities that come with community and what it's like to work with a childhood icon.
I know he'll shrug this off when I say this, but I have to shout out my new brother and homie, Adrian Huerta, who I would have never met without Diego and curating the show Scene. So Adrian and I met officially because, Diego's a good friend of mine. I was curating the show Scene and we had to create content for the show. Adrian's one of the owners of the gallery. So we got to work together creating reels and we did a photo shoot for Scene. And we're talking. He saw me shoot photographs. And then he just told me one day, like the week leading up to the show, actually, leading up, he's like, hey, I got this job. I got this job coming through. And they just asked me last minute if I could do photographs, portraits too. And he's a videographer. It's like, would you be down to help me? And I said, yeah, sure. Why not? Let me know. I didn't hear about it. So I thought it wasn't happening. And then I learned like, oh yeah. It's for the Dodgers. And I'm like, first one, I'm like, oh my God, the Dodgers. It's crazy. Yeah, let's do it. I'm in, let's go. And then he tells me it's a collaboration between the Dodgers and Mr. Cartoon. So the reason I picked this one, and it ties into my very first one, growing up in LA as a young Latina artist creative, Mr. Cartoon and Esteban Orillo were the OGs, the LA OGs of LA culture. He's an amazing, it's kind of silly to introduce Mr. Cartoon, but in case no one knows, he's iconic visual artist, tattooer. He has tattooed almost so many celebrities, but big in the hip hop culture. And his homie, one of his closest friends, is Esteban. And Esteban photographed a lot, documented black and white LA culture. And my life or my creative circle my creative journey came full circle when Adrian told me that I'd be coming on board on a shoot with Mr. Cartoon and the Dodgers and shooting portraits in LA. Because that's what that to me is just like, oh my God, I'm shooting a legend and I'm shooting photography of someone who influenced me. This is a big deal for me. And I'm not a sports person. So to me, like, oh, cool, the LA Dodgers, yay, sports. But I was fangirling like inside. Little Lonnie, little young LA photographer Lonnie was really excited. In hindsight now, I still feel that excitement and still feel that like, oh my God, this really happened. But leading up to it, I remember, I think I was trying to calm myself, just keep myself focused. Work, it's work. You've been on set with big figures and culture, and so it's just work. You got this, cool, collected. But in the back of my mind, I was just like, okay, what am I gonna do? What setup are we going to do? Am I going to bring strobes? Am I going to shoot film? I got to get this on film. This is like, this, if anything has to be on film, right? The portrait I actually chose that we're looking at is actually digital. I did one strobe, one setup of him, just kind of the moment, a clean portrait of him. I remember at one point I was like, can I have like a soft smile? He goes, I don't smile. It's like, of course he doesn't. Why did I ask that? That's so stupid, Nalani. He's so badass. Like, he's such an OG. Why would he even smile? But I think that's just my excitement of love to see you smile. I remember I was double checking everything for myself that day. This one was a big deal for me. I really wanted it to look good. So I took some time to set up my light, make sure we were going to be moving really quickly. Photos weren't priority. This was for a social media campaign to announce the collaboration that he did. He designed some t-shirts, which you can kind of see in the background, for opening day of the Dodgers season. And so I knew, having worked on different sets, I knew I was going to have very limited time. So I had to be swift, I had to be on point, and I had to be direct on what I needed to get from him. So the fact that he told me he doesn't smile was kind of like, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to get the same like stoic look. So just make sure I get it. I made sure I had time to set up the light, and then we were waiting for him, and we were just losing more and more time. So I remember feeling that like, it's not going to be as planned as I thought. It's just going to be flow. And remembering from my past experiences, like sometimes I can be a perfectionist and a planner. And I do that to self-soothe or to avoid disappointment or whatever deeper reasons those are. But this was a good exercise to remind me to just go with intuition, don't overthink it, and just flow. So this was the most stylized and planned setup we had, with the one light, the strobe, and then the rest was really just gun and go. We were moving throughout the stadium. I had my Hasselblad and some black and white 35. I ended up just going with all the digitals for this campaign and color editing them a bit more to match my film aesthetic. And that's actually an interesting point I am right now in my photography for commercial work, where I love shooting film and I think there's still a place for that. It's rather expensive. So working with my digital to get it to a point that I still feel I'm evoking the same, a similar, it's not going to be identical, same of my film shots. And I want to say that this shoot in particular was a step closer to that for me. I remember when he arrived, I had that moment of like, wow, like this is, again, full circle. I remember being on the streets of LA or going down to the LA River and like photographing graffiti. I once walked into like this store I was also like a gallery and seeing Esteban's work and seeing Mr. Cartoon's work and knowing that they represented LA culture. And this was before I went to art college. And I just remember I got into my art school on a film photography portfolio that was all graffiti. I was going out as soon as I could drive. I was driving to places where I heard El Mac had hit up a wall and like did some crazy mural, or Retina. These were just names that you heard of. And so I was already then thinking of like, one day I hope I'll be in the same room. So for this job to come through was really exciting and was just affirming that I'm on the right path. And things you think of when you're little, like, totally happen. This was my first like big brand campaign. Dodgers is a big name to shoot for. And a plot twist, which will go into the next image that complements this, is that this was supposed to be a social campaign, and it was going to be pushed across social. And then I received an email. They were asking for their selects, and they asked for a couple other images, and they said because they needed to blow them up to put in their store, in the merch store. And that's when for me it was like, oh no, like, and a good oh no. Like, oh my God, this is a commercial project now. Like, my work is going to be up in this huge merch store, retail store at Dodger Stadium, promoting this. And they picked this image of him riding in his Impala with his family, and a couple, I think they also picked a landscape of just downtown, similar to the Annie portrait, where I was really capturing that energy of being a Latina woman and like me saying this is where I'm from. Now speaking to you is making me realize maybe stylistically, or the way I speak, or like where I live, Pasadena, to others will not say like she is Latina, Mexicana, but my imagery in these moments is the way I'm saying, I'm claiming that, I'm claiming LA as me. And so when they picked these pictures and they put them up, and they were so kind to give me some opening day tickets. And I went and I got to see this was the first time I got to see my work up, installed, and seeing people in this other event happening, and seeing that I had that moment where I wanted to walk up to every stranger and be like, that's my photo, I shot those, do you know I shot those, do you know I'm a girl? Like, I'm a woman. I'm a woman. That was big for me. That was LA. I am an LA woman. That Doors song sings true to me since I was a young girl. And to capture Mr. Cartoon in his Impala in downtown, with downtown LA in the back at the Dodger Stadium, and then it's up and seeing LA, like seeing the people of LA see this and experience this, takes my breath away. And so I remember telling Adrian while we were there, because he was shooting video, just like, little Lonnie is so happy right now and jumping for joy. Thank you so much. And to him, he's like, no big deal. Like, your work, you're killing it. And, but again, it's really important to me I thank myself. I'm learning to shower myself with the love, like that Snoop Dogg video of him receiving his Hollywood star, I think, or something. He goes, I want to thank myself. I'm learning to do that for myself now. I want to thank myself and applaud myself for showing up. And every time I have a big shoot like this, I get a little stage fright. Like I get the jitters. I'm like, oh my God, should I just say like I'm sick or something? Like I can't go. No. But you show up and you never regret it. You never regret it, even if it's hard. You never regret it. You walk away and you're like, wow. And so for me, opening day, walking up to that store, I remember I became filled with so much emotion. I wanted to cry, tears of joy. I remember looking over at my friend and be like, they're right there. They're right there. And like running over there. My daughter was with me at the moment. And so like she's 6.5. So like there are a lot of energy. So I was just I try to be a mom, but also like having my moment of like, oh my God, oh my God. I forgot to take pictures when we went right away. And then we went to go watch the game. And I asked, we got to go back. I got to take pictures and take some video. But yeah, same thing of like thanking myself. It's still important to me, a core part of me, to thank those who brought me into a room, who spoke my name in a room that I wasn't in. And so thank you to Adrian for seeing me work and seeing my work and saying, hey, I had this. And yeah, this is something that will always stay with me.
How wonderful to have opportunities that excite our inner child. Nalani's next image is more about the self-awareness and confidence that we develop after years of experiences.
This woman you see here is one image of 5, and it's a series that I created for the show I curated. I was one of the featured artists as well. I had a friend encourage me to also show in the show, not just curate it, and I thank them for that. And I returned to origins. It's all origins. Where do I come from? I returned to art school. I returned to myself as an artist. This show was an invitation to create personal work. And for the last couple of years, since I moved back to LA, I've been very focused on making a career. By that I mean like financial abundance and provide a life for myself and my daughter. And so work, creating work, and that means clients. This was the first time in 6.5 years, maybe a little less, but where I made work for myself, made an art piece. I am an artist. I went to art school. As a woman and a mother, I recognized when I was thinking about this piece, what is something that I've been working through or trying to figure out for a while. As I mentioned, I am divorced. I am a mother. I've gone through a lot of changes in my life. And the one thing that kept coming up, the challenge, the obstacle, or the thing that I had been facing for quite some time, since childhood even, was this idea that I could never change. I had to be one Nalani. I had to be a certain Nalani, or everybody had a version of Nalani that had to exist. And the pressure and stress and anxiety and sometimes just disappointments I was creating, not just to myself, but sometimes to others, because I couldn't meet that, or I would try and then just know that I was disappointing myself. And my deepest truth that was always in my gut and I knew was true, I just didn't know how to live to it or honor it and recognize it, was that we are multifaceted. We have so many sides to us. And they are all just as important, as real, and as beautiful, and as authentic as the one that everyone seems to see or be or feel of you. I made this series. I was playing with like, oh, ellas son yo. They're me. Those women are me. But again, diving deeper into how did I reach this truth and how am I trying to live this truth of like, we are multifaceted. We all have so many different energies and sides to us. That is rooted in my spirituality, my spiritual life, where I'm at a point right now in my life where I'm not trying to keep them separate. I'm not trying to keep all these identities separate anymore. I'm trying to live them fully at all times. And it's messy and it's not perfect. And I'm even noticing who gets to see what sides and what situations make me close off the other sides when really I want to live them all at the same time. And the one that has really started to shine through, that she's starting to feel safe to come out, is the spiritual side. And so when I was developing this more and more, I was trying to decide, how am I going to show all the different sides of me? First, I was thinking I was going to do like 6 different versions of me, and it's infinite. There's so many different, kind of like inspired by Cindy Sherman, the role playing, dressing up and showing all these different facets. I decided to also use clothes, like my attire, because I feel like I feel that and I think most women have different looks. We have different feels. We have different lip color for a certain self, and another color for this and that. And when I dove deeper, and I had just finished another class in my spirituality class, we dove into the medicine wheel, and the medicine wheel is always present. We work with the 4 elements. We work within the 4 directions. And when I heard that, and I recall that we live in this energy of the 4 directions, I was like, Las Cuatro Direcciones de Nalani. And there's so many interpretations of it too, like even like in a car, in a manual car, the 4 directions you shift gears in, right? But they're all part of this vehicle. And the 4 directions, and the way I was learning about it, we have our 4 directions, our 4 elements, and in the center is Oyin, which means everything, all is one, is universal energy. So my piece in the show was 5 self-portraits. In the very center is Nalani, Oyin, everything. And she has little hints of all the other Nalanis you'll see in her clothes or her makeup and stuff. But then I have my 4 directions. To my north, I have Mother, La Madre. And to the west, I have the Lover, La Amante. To the east, I have La Curandera. And then to the south, I have the Artist. And for those who are really into the medicine wheel, for me, La Curandera and the Lover, east and west, are really interchangeable. I intentionally did put the ones, like I put Mother and Artist across from each other, like above each other, and Curandera and Lover across from each other. So to me, like they complement each other and they work off of each other, and the same thing from north to south. But I chose to show La Curandera because she right now is really, she's my anchor right now. She is, I mean, I look at her now and I see her, and she's so strong and confident. And I love, of the 5 I did, like, I remember the strength I needed to hold that pose. Like she's on her toes. She's almost grazing the water, the floor. But she seems so strong yet gentle, and inviting, but still I'm standing my ground. You know, for those who don't know, like in Mexica medicine, like there's so much symbolism, personal symbolism and power to this one specifically. Red, even my daughter will tell you that she says red is my favorite color, but because red to me, and it is a protective color. Red is a color of strength. Red is the color of spirituality. Red is the color of power and strength and strong feminine energy. But it's also rooted in masculinity. It's a color for war. It's a color for, for action and warrior. The huipil is one I hold very dear, which is the dress. It comes from Mexico. I collect huipiles. I wear them all the time, especially in the summer. Like you'll see me mostly in a huipil or a blouse or my skirt from Mexico. This is me honoring Mexicana. Soy de México. Mi familia es de México. Somos Mexica. This is why for me, Mexica means more to me than saying, I don't identify with Chicana. Yo soy Mexica. Mi familia es de la Ciudad de México. Aztecas, Mexica. Even when I speak to people in Spanish, like, wow, you're Spanish? Where are you from? And I say Mexico City, like, oh, okay. Yes, it makes sense. I am here at a point in my life that I know who I am as a Mexicana in spirituality. I am wearing earrings and my headdress, touching on those feminine qualities. The flowers I'm holding, I have some white flowers. I have romero, rosemary, and I have pirul, which is California pepper tree leaves. And el pirul is, I want to say it's not just my favorite tree. It's plant medicine that I work with a lot. When I see a pirul, I feel I'm on the right path. I feel there's energy for me to stay grounded. And whenever I do a sound bath or meditation, which is the work I do with my mom as Botanica Melo, we lead gatherings and ceremonies and circles. We bring pirul. Pirul has always, it's a very guardian-esque energy. And so it was important for me to have that in the image. But also in traditions, if those who know about curanderismo or limpias, traditionally, like, your bundle gets drenched in water or alcohol or some kind of mixture, and to cleanse your energy, you sweep and you cleanse. And so this pose even is showing like this bundle is sacred. It's a very feminine bundle. You could be interpreted as a bouquet, but at any moment I can flip it and clear the energy, clear the space. And then in my hand I'm holding my poposhkomi, which is where we put sacred resin or incense and sacred smoke. And the figurine itself is a figurine that represents one of the gods for plant medicine and healing. So I chose this one to share because I wanted these 5 really to be seen, but I picked this one for this podcast because she's the one that's really walking fully right now. I think so. One thing besides being a creative, it's the second thing I say that I am. I'm really spiritual. I'm not afraid to say it anymore. I think at first there was a lot of stigma or like fear. People would think you're weird or, oh, what does that mean? And now I'm not afraid to say, this is who I am, and it's a part of me, and it guides me. It shows me, and I feel things deeply. Going back to the language, academia is like, no, speak to me in poems, speak to me in sense, in music, in lyrics, in gestures, and the unseen and unspoken things. And that's what La Curandera lives in. She exists in everything that you can't perceive in the traditional sense. It's recognizing the little coincidences, the little happenings, the magic in our everyday, and that's a core part of me. I've done a lot of self-portraiture over the years, and so this exercise was such a beautiful homecoming for me to also kill the thought that I had realized, like, creating this, I realized that I had put a story in my head that me choosing to do self-portraiture was me being selfish or like, pay attention to me. No, like, this is the work, this is the deep work I do. I reflect on myself and how I move in this world. And in spirituality, they say to heal others, you begin with the self. And that is something I received from this piece, people telling me, now you got me thinking about, what are my directions? Who do I have inside me? And that's kind of where I'm going now with this. I would love to, I'm putting it out there. If anybody's interested in like doing this with me, I would love to photograph your directions and evolve this. I'm exceptionally proud of myself because as a mother and as a working mother, I don't give myself enough time to create. I mean, it took this long. I've been creating things, but I mean for myself, artwork. It's interesting that I pose this thing to others, like, I want you. I'm that person. I'm like, I want you. Come on, let's discover this. Or someone goes out to my friend, Ed, touch your brushes, touch your paint brushes. You haven't painted in a while. But I also have to do that for myself. And this series was that. I love Cindy Sherman's work. I love other photographers and other female artists who turn their gaze on themselves and be like, this is what I'm going through. This is what I want to talk about. I love talking about sensuality and sexuality. And that's also like The Lover, me doing The Lover was a big step for me because I think culturally as Latinas, and I think a lot of people will resonate with this, we weren't told to honor that. That's like, no, eso es muy malo, niña. No se habla de eso. No, no enseñes mucho. No, da, 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 da. And we're now finally finding spaces. Thank you, reggaeton. Just kidding. But like, we're finding spaces in community where we can really allow ourselves to honor that. And that again ties into spirituality. My spirituality practices and beliefs are teaching me that an empowered woman, a grounded, aligned woman, honors her masculine and her feminine, and they coexist. And she honors her sensuality. Our sensuality and our sexuality is our power. We give birth, we create life. And to create life, we need to be sexual, be beings of sensuality. And La Curandera is my anchor. She teaches me, she reminds me that I experience beauty, love, and life to a maximum and to a deeper level. Ties to my photography because when I photograph people, I am mindful of the energy they're sharing with me. And I want to honor that. I want to capture their essence in a safe and beautiful way. I want the light in me sees the light in them. This portrait, the self-portrait, I believe it's just the catalyst of more deeper. Even now with my art studio, all my work is really personal, and I'm still exploring how to do that in a way that makes me feel safe, because there's still parts of me that's like, oh, I don't know if they want to see that, but that's just me getting in my head. And my community has shown me with this piece at the show, with their feedbacks and with their thoughts of like, people want to hear your story. People want to see this. Women want to see other women doing it because it gives them a safe space to do it. And now they have a safe colleague to talk about it with. Like another Little Lani moment. Little Lani this is art school, actually. This Lani is a little bit older. This Lani is in art school, figuring out, is this really, like, am I an artist? And this show and this piece really is telling Lani at SFAI, you are an artist. And oh my God, I'm gonna cry right now. There is a professor, another mentor. He was known to be one of the most hardest critiquing professors at our school. I'm forgetting his last name, but Brett. And if for some way this gets to him, I was assigned to his senior critique class, and that's your last class before you graduate, and you just have to learn how to talk about your art, present your art. And I wasn't a painter. I was intimidated. Like, he was known to just like rip you apart. And my senior year, I decided to do all self-portraits in all the mediums. And having him as my advisor and professor, this series was a jumping point, almost like a sequel to, I did Alter Egos senior year. And I did this self-portrait of me as a raver, because that was big in my life, but like had the whole get up and everything. And I did this huge mixed media drawing painting. And I'm getting emotional and all because he told me then, this is 22, it's been like 11 years. It took me 11 years, Brett, but like, he told me that I had a lot to say through my self-portraits, through my self-portraiture, and that people would listen. And that, thinking about it now and after the show, like, all I've been asking for or telling myself, like, you want to be seen and heard. And this person, this importance of mentorship and teachers, He was telling me at 22, people want to hear you and people want to see you. And here it is, push forward. And I think all artists go through this. Life put me in situations that I got afraid, or I closed in, or I said the reason that I did this piece was I was told I couldn't be all these things. I could only be one thing, or the shame that was put on me, like, you've changed. And so now, it took me 11 years to return to self-portraiture, but it was an incredible moment to hear someone of that level of knowledge and wisdom to impart that to me. And now here at 33, at the opening of a show I curated with my daughter there, honoring all these parts of me and saying they're who I am, and if I need to change, I need to change, and that's okay. And now presenting it to the world through art.
I am so grateful to Nalani and all the photographers who have shared their creative journeys and work with us this season. All the images, links, transcripts, and more can be found at our website, ourlatinalens.com/podcast. Subscribe and set notifications so you're alerted when season 2 drops. I am so appreciative of your time and support. Gracias. This and all episodes in this season were produced, edited, and hosted by me, Monica Aldarondo Lugo. Our theme music was composed by Matthias Muller, and our logo was created by Tumpa Mystery.
Lancla Creative.